Yeah. Sometimes I get so mad, there's no controlling me. My thoughts get so bad, I'm like, I might grab a bat, I don't know. My wrath, my blood boils over like, oh God, here goes. I lost all feeling from my head to my toes. You said some shit that I can't let go, so just stay tuned for the rest of the show. So have you ever felt betrayed? Switches how you see things, realize something needs change. Cause I know you got me fucked up, let me show you what's up. Cause enough is enough. I'll take a face full of pavement just to make a statement. I know there's no turning back. Oh God, adrenaline wasted, so mad I can taste it. I know there's no turning back. I'll do what it takes, I ain't making mistakes like that. I'll bleed on your face just to make you go take it back. I'll lose my shit, I go crazy when I'm mad. And I ain't gon' wish you would shut the fuck up real bad. And now that I'm gone, yeah, I know there's no turning back. And now that I'm gone, yeah, I know there's no turning back. I don't fucking take smoke, I'ma poke a hole through you, choking's overdue. Come at me and you won't get any older, dude. Crack your holder too. Heating up inside of me, blood so violently. Thanks for trying me. Now it's finally time to see how this rivalry becomes a dynasty.
Attention on this channel. We've got an important message. All observations and opinions shared here are for educational purposes only. This content is intended for adults. Viewer discretion is advised. Be advised that any individuals mentioned are not intended to suggest involvement in any crime.
Case by case, got the fire.
Ha! Come on,
Yo, you wanna talk about true crime? We start with the data flows. Digital footprints meet criminal defense, that's how this story goes. This channel's all about online evidence, the stuff they overlook. From live stream chats to deleted posts, it's all in the true crime book. My goal is to provide insight for the attorney in the darkest hour, to find the proof that can make a case or break a criminal's power. So whether you're a lawyer or a PI, we're diving deep in the mess, exposing misconduct and hidden truths to get to the very best leads. We break it down case by case, on the trail of the facts. We show how digital evidence changes case outcomes, we on their tracks. No rumors, no gossip, just the evidence clear and concise, shining a light on the shadows at any cost or price. What do we do?
case by case.
What's the motto? We're here for the victims, the ones who were left behind. We're here for the families, giving them peace of mind. We follow the paper trail, the digital footprints and the timelines, connecting the dots, we're reading between the lines. We don't just talk theory, we show you how it works in practice. We're here to help you stay ahead of the curve, to get a new analysis. You think you're in charge, but we're here to find what matters most. We're giving a voice to the voiceless, like a digital ghost. Digital ghost, digital ghost. We break it down case by case, on the trail of the facts. We show how digital evidence changes case outcomes, we on their tracks. No rumors, no gossip, just the evidence clear and concise, shining a light on the shadows at any cost or price. What do we do?
Case by case.
What's the motto? From digital clues, the mystery, you wanna know the answers? We're dedicated to the chase, from the first look at the scene to the final resting place. We're here to find the answers, to give the victims their due. A true crime channel with a heart and a purpose too. We're here to build up, to expose the truth, and to shine a light on the darkest of deeds with all our might. We're here for the truth, we're here for the facts, and that's it. We don't chase the trends, we just chase the truth and never quit. We let the past speak for itself, we let the facts lay the ground. We're just here to be a voice, a tribute that is sound. Yeah, it's all for the truth. All for the truth.
Ha! Come on, come on.
lost for you, yeah. Won't kiss the ring. Yeah. Come on. Let's go.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Case by Case. It's a Tuesday night. It's a rarity for me. So how's everybody doing? Hello, welcome in the chat. Don't be shy. Please chime up and speak up if you want. So you guys know that we've been really focused on the timeline here, and I have harped on one area of the timeline, but I've done it over a course of the series. And tonight I just want to focus directly on this group and a particular, guys, my favorite crime family that I'm constantly telling you guys about. That's been a very serious POI of mine for a long time. Oh, Fig, you're fine. So anywho, how's everybody doing? Just want to get all of my highs and welcome-ins handled before I get started, because I'm going to kind of go straight through and put this all together in a way that I hope that it hits a little different tonight than what it may during a Delphi Vault episode. Excuse me. Little frog in my throat. But I really just think that this section needs a lot more eyes on it. And I'm going to kind of put it all together so you, like I said, it hits different. And, let me know as I'm going through if I'm making sense, if I'm reading too much into it. Karen said, Amy, you are out of sync. I'm out of sync. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Is my Wi-Fi acting funny? Doesn't appear to be. Can someone let me know? Everybody can hear me okay? Yo. Okay, my feed's good. Okay, perfect. Okay, so so let me just jump in, okay? Let's see, like inflammation. So let me just jump in. What I'm going to focus on tonight is a section of the timeline between 1:30 p.m. and 3:30, which I would consider to be the critical hour of the crime. We know we've got cell phones in the geofence that are still, as far as I know, are unidentified, converging in the area. We have a group of people that all have a deep Monticello connection converging on the Monon High Bridge, all at the same time, all in the same place, which to me, I just can't. Coincidences in this case are running rampant. I can't let that go. So here's my take on tonight's timeline attack that I'm going to do. The converging of people to the Monon High Bridge between 1:30 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. The critical window nobody can explain between 1:30 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. on February 13th, 2017. An unusual convergence of people moved through the Monon High Bridge area. Some arrived by trail, some by vehicle, some were reportedly there for only moments. Others changed their stories over time. That's huge. And somehow, during the most critical window of the case, no one claims to have seen the girls after a certain point. In fact, we only have one person on the trails that day who claimed they saw Abby and Libby, and that was Betsy Blair. No one heard screams. No one reported panic. No one reported a violent abduction unfolding in broad daylight. That alone should stop people in their tracks. The timeline surrounding the Monon High Bridge is filled with contradictions, shifting statements, conflicting witness accounts, and testimony that often does not align with the original reports. The more the timeline is examined, the more the official narrative begins to fracture under the weight of its own inconsistencies. So that's my mindset going into what I'm going to talk about tonight. Some of this information, I think, is not going to be brand new to all of you. I think the way I'm going to present it may make it more clear. So we're going to start with the players that I'm talking about. Of course, you guys know Daniel Pearson. Now, we do have, and if someone wants to remind me later, I can pull them up. I do have communication, not from me, but through Skip, with Skip and Doug Rice, by the way. If you don't know who Doug Rice is, Doug Rice, way back in the very beginning of this case, he was somebody, an older gentleman who was boots on the ground, who was going around and really busting his tail trying to help solve this case, interviewing people. And he actually spoke with Shelby Hicks's grandfather. I have those screenshots. If you want me to go over them and show them later on, I can if I have time. If not, remind me and I'll do it another time, but I do have them. The major takeaway from what Shelby Hicks's grandfather had to say was, one, that the guy that she was with that day on the trail was Daniel Pearson, and that he was on the trail at approximately 1:30. So that, and this was back in 2017. And I'm also going to tell you that there are tips about Daniel Pearson in the Orion tip file reporting that he was out there and on the bridge at 2 p.m. That aligns with what? That aligns with Betsy Blair approaching the barrier at the north end of the bridge and making eye contact with the young bridge guy that she described, right? It's undeniable. Just a little reminder of some of the things that were circulating. Make this bigger. So these are screenshots that have circulated around forever, but it kind of falls into the direction that I feel, for me personally, is one of the stronger motives in this case. This person originally posted that she believed that her POI was Eric Alter. Eric Alter was a family friend of Ron Logan's who used to run around Delphi, used to hang out at Ron Logan's property. He has a YouTube channel that's called Pink Panties, where he's actually sharing video on his YouTube channel being at Ron Logan's property, driving a ATV around the woods and the trails. Go check it out, Pink Panties. However, this person says, I no longer believe that he was necessarily directly involved in the murders of those girls that day. He has a role somehow. He definitely knew about the crime, who committed it, and how, and why very shortly after the crime, but two other men also did. All we know is that these three men heard the details of the crime soon after it was committed. We don't know if they knew beforehand or if they were in on some larger plot. The motive for the murders is drugs, specifically methamphetamine. The murders were apparently payback for Derek German's meth involvement, which angered a lot of people. They took it out on his daughter, but Abby was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Skipping over to another post that I've gone over before, I saw a pic on February 15th, the day after the girls were found, that had two guys coming across the bridge about halfway, but they stopped and looked back when they saw the girls were going to take a picture. My girlfriend showed me the pic on her phone, But when I got home, I couldn't find the pic. And my girlfriend can't find it again since then. The post got deleted, but that doesn't mean that they can't go back and see the pic, even if it was deleted, right? I am in no way at all a computer expert, but worth checking out, I would think. February 15th is when we saw that post, but don't remember who had posted it, or my girlfriend would have already called it in. What I don't understand is that the police only show one person on the bridge, but not both. Makes me think that is why the police won't show the part of the video of the guy coming across the bridge to them when they said they took the pic of the girls in the video. I thought if they shared that part of the video of them coming towards them, that maybe we could tell who it is by the way they walk. Now, this just supports the fact that we've been explaining to you that we believe there's other photos that we have never seen, that for whatever reason, the individual, more than likely Kelsey German, who had access to Libby's account, deleted these photos. Why? We don't know. We know that Kelsey German did an interview on the podcast Infamous Indie, and it's on that podcast where she claims she saw the picture of Libby leaning down. Go check it out. It's Infamous Indie. So also, just to kind of get you guys all refreshed really quick, this is a photograph of Abby screenshotted from within the video. This is not anything from the 207 photo. This is from within the BG video. If you look right below her left hip, you can see the foot of the BG guy behind her. But we have always worked out or believed that these are individuals behind her on the bridge. And this would be at approximately 2:13. Well, if Daniel Pearson was standing on the first platform around 2 o'clock, as was reported by people who tipped him in, and Betsy Blair made eye contact with the young brown poofy-haired guy on the first platform, from the time that Betsy Blair turned around and began to walk back towards the Mears intersection, another person or two converged on the bridge. And if you remember correctly, there were 3 episodes. It was like a part 1, a part 2, and a part 3 of the Delphi Vault 38 episode, where I believe within those episodes, or was it 43? I can't remember, where we actually played with the BG video and we showed you that the individuals in the background, there's movement. Go check that out. But there's definitely movement. We did it live. And in pausing in the video and zooming in, you can see to the right-hand side the images that were captured. And then when they were outlined and traced, this was sort of what we felt was being seen in the foreground behind Abby. Take it for what it's worth. We did it live. I'm going to check on chat really quick. Well, as you guys know, there is another phone. There is an iPhone 5 on Libby's account, which is odd to me, mainly because, hey, Streets, mainly because if you remember, Libby factory reset her phone on February 4th. What would be a reason for her to add manually? Because I don't believe that when she factory reset her phone, she did a cloud backup where she reset her phone for a reason. And that was because her phone was glitching, according to Becky Patty, if you believe Becky Patty. And there, for a long time, it was said by Becky Patty that Libby actually had a iPhone rose gold. Well, we know from research there's not a iPhone rose gold iPhone 5S. It's considered gold, but it looks rose gold. So is that the phone? We don't know. But to me, there's always been that undertone of statements that were made that were deleted offline where Becky said Abby was given a phone to use because she wasn't allowed to have one. Whether that phone had access to making phone calls, I don't know. It would have access, I'm sure, to Wi-Fi, which means she could access apps, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact that there is an iPhone 5S on Libby's phone found at the crime scene is it just falls right into that, into exactly what we've been saying. We started off initially saying that it was a cloned phone. What we meant by cloned phone is the fact that the two phones were sharing the same Apple account, the same iCloud account. And we've gone over all of that where things get, crisscrossed between the phones. And if someone's taking a photograph of Libby leaning down, was that from a phone that Abby could have been carrying? And we've showed you on this channel a particular image of Abby with her jacket open in the BG video. And it clearly, to me, shows that she has the outline of a phone in her gray jacket pocket. We've done 2 or 3 lives with discussing and showing that. So if the girls are at the south end of the bridge at 213, and you believe that there's people approaching at the north end, what I'm trying to do is narrow down who that would be. So let's get into it. Okay. The group converging on the bridge all have similar connections. The majority of them are all from Monticello. Here in the middle of the screen, you have 2 brothers, Jack Ingalls and Chase Ingalls. The one on the right, Chase Ingalls, at the time of February 13th, he was married to Cheyenne Mills. They had separated and filed for divorce in March of 2016. Or I'm sorry, not March. I wrote that wrong. I believe it's October of 2016, and the divorce was final March of 2017. The reason that's important is because to the left is Jack Ingalls, his brother. CL has a baby with Jack. Who is CL? Cheryl Loeffler. We'll get to that. That makes Cheryl Loeffler and Cheyenne Mills 2 children. They each have a child with an Ingalls brother. It makes them cousins. I have had communication with another female who also has a child with Jack Ingalls. And I'm not going to say her name, but she has a baby with Jack, and she told me that they moved in to 6047 Hodges Drive after an eviction had taken place there. Well, lo and behold, right in the middle of the screen here, I found an eviction for October of 2017 at that address, and that property sits on the Palladino compound. Are you guys following me? Does that make sense? Hey, guys, give me 1 second. Someone's ringing my doorbell. 7 o'clock. Hold on 1 second. Just a salesperson. Solar panels. No, thank you. Stop. That's enough. You scared him away. So anyway, are you guys following me with this? Do you understand the connections here? And the reason Cheryl Loeffler is important, I do answer my door. Sorry. I probably shouldn't, huh? But if go back to the very first Delphi Vault, episodes 1 through 3, and we went over Tina Rodell and the fact that she was the very first person to claim that Cheyenne lied about who she was with that day and that she was with Cheryl Loeffler. Hang on to that thought. So here's a breakdown of a timeline that I have talking about Daniel Pearson in his first interview. Daniel's first interview, he claims he got to the platform number 1 at approximately 3:20 and 3:30. Now let's evaluate that, because based on David McCain's testimony and based on Shelby Hicks's testimony and based on Cheyenne Mills' testimony, Cheyenne arrived at the trails at 2:50. And when she approached the bridge, Shelby Hicks and Daniel Pearson were already on the bridge. Remember that? That's even in her trial testimony, which we are going to go over. Daniel and Shelby Hicks said they saw a white Subaru wagon and a dark car. Well, that's interesting. This is another problem that I have with the state's narrative. If Cheyenne arrives at 2:50, and that was good enough in her testimony. Now remember, Andrew Baldwin, in opening statements, claimed the jury was going to hear from Daniel Pearson, and then Daniel Pearson was never called. But if Daniel Pearson was already with Shelby Hicks on the bridge at 2:50, how did he see upon arrival a white Subaru wagon? Who drove a white Subaru wagon? Derek German. Then it goes on to say that Daniel and Shelby Hicks saw a man over 55 years old, peppered hair and beard, solid black painter or golfer's hat, blue jeans, tan and cream lumberjack style shirt with black and gray mixed in. The man had a camera and appeared to have taken a photo of Daniel and Shelby Hicks. When showed a photo of David McCain, showed by who, Daniel said that was him. Now, this right here is important. And it's important because Daniel Pearson claimed that he participated in the Old Bridge Guy sketch, which the state at trial claimed that it was Sarah Carball who helped with that sketch. And the problem with that is that he claimed that he was shown a photograph of David McCain. And you're going to see in here in a supplemental report by the Carroll County Sheriff's Department, I'm going to show it to you. Daniel Pearson calls law enforcement before publicly the girls were even announced to have been found, wanting to steer the narrative. He knew that he needed to contact police and give them his version of events from the day before. And that evening, they went in to law enforcement, but they were told to come back the next day because they had a lot going on on the 14th. So they go back in on the 15th. And Daniel claims that he was shown a picture of a man, which was David McCain. And he said, yeah, that's the guy he saw. Well, according to David McCain and his testimony, David McCain immediately after the 14th, when the girls were found, lawyered up and did not contact law enforcement for 3 to 4 days after the girls were found. So if that is true, how would law enforcement know that David McCain was out on the trails that day? Good question. I'm looking into that, Fig. That's the $1 million question right now. You're welcome, Monday. So we already right off the rip have issues with Daniel Pearson's version of events, right? And then the fact that his story changed nonstop publicly all over social media. And it seemed the more information that came out about the case over time, the more he adjusted his time. That this is a major problem. Who is this? The chronic illness diaries, having trouble keeping track of who is who. Okay. I'm buffering. Sorry. Well, am I still buffering, guys? Dan McCain is a whole nother problem. And you guys know why. He reportedly crashed his bicycle up by the cemetery. And I have just recently found out, and I have somebody, I'm not going to say your name, but I'm waiting on you. So far, he's not had the greatest of luck, but he's going back through old cell phones where he had saved information. You remember Delphi Docs used to have a boatload of Delphi stuff, and then somehow things got lost over time. But I have been informed, not just by one person, but by a second, that there is a trail cam photo of Dan McCain riding his bike around the trail system. And I was even told that he reportedly rode his bike onto the trail and up to the bridge. Don't know if it's true. I'm waiting for proof. No. So on the tan Malibu, we're not going to talk about that tonight. I know there would. So just really quick, I have today gone back through a lot of stuff and discovered information that I have about a tan Malibu. I got to cross-check and find out where I got that information. But the information that I came across today, I even sent a message to Quester, like, where did do you know, does this look familiar? I think it was in Vault 37. And we're trying to track down where we got the information from. But there was a tan Malibu seen by a witness around 2 p.m. at the Mears trailhead. Now, I also know for a fact there is a major tip of a person who was standing out in front of 3717 on West 300 North, which is right around the corner. I showed it yesterday from Ron Logan's house, who claimed that he's seen a man coming out of the wooded area around 4:30 p.m. and get into a tan Ford Malibu. Yeah, you know what? I really should make, that's a great game. That would be a great game. A clue game would be useful. A game of Clue of the Delphi case. Thank you, Rod. So that's all I'm going to talk about the tan Malibu for now. That's still ongoing. So, or a Chevy Malibu, whatever it is, it's a tan car. I'll have to go back and look. and the tipster may have gotten the make. He called it a tan Malibu. Whether it was a Ford or a Chevy, I can't be positive one way or the other. But the fact that we have somebody exiting the woods on the other side of Ron Logan's property that's incredible. When Muddy Bloody Guy is supposed to be going the opposite direction up 300 north towards CPS at 4 o'clock. Do we have two different people involved in this crime exiting two different ways? I don't believe there was a Muddy Bloody Guy. There might have been a muddy guy, but I don't think he was bloody. So I've introduced the problem with Daniel Pearson starting out. Okay, there's more. There's a lot more. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen. And we are briefly going to go over, let me see here real quick. Let me close that out. Give me 1 second. Let me find my bearings here. Hold on, I'm going to make sure I'm sharing the same screen. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Okay, so I've highlighted some of this for you guys. Let me bounce back in and make sure you guys are seeing it. Okay, no, you're not. You guys aren't seeing that, are you? That's odd. There we go. Okay. So bear with me. I'm going to breeze through this rather quickly and discuss some key points. Yes, Daniel Pearson is not the flannel shirt guy. That was reportedly David McCain. David's brother, Dan McCain, was reportedly on a bicycle. And remember, we were told that he fell off of his bike. Then we found the photograph of him in a meeting where above his knee was sliced open. He had all kinds of bandages around it, and there was blood coming through the bandages. So let me scroll through here. And the first thing I want to discuss is Cheyenne's description of what her and her friend Shelby Duncan did on that morning. My best friend and I went hiking at France Park. And then after, we did a loop around the lake. It was warm out that day, so we were like, let's go on another walk. And I asked her if she's ever been to the High Bridge, and she said no, she has not. So we hit the High Bridge after leaving France Park. Okay, we took the Hoosier Heartland and went out that way. And France Park was considered to be east of Delphi and east of Monticello. Okay, so Shelby Duncan and Cheyenne were at this park called France Park together the morning of the 13th and had decided to go to the High Bridge. She said, I showed up at the trails about 2:50-ish. And she was asked, so you're talking about 2:50 in the afternoon, right? And she said, I parked in the grass. I'm not exactly for sure which way I was facing, but there used to be a trailhead marker and there was about 2 parking spots there, which were already taken. So I pulled up in the grass by the parking spot. Okay. So the Mears lot supposedly had about 2 parking spots. They were already taken. And by all accounts, one of those vehicles were David McCain. Now, if they're arriving at 2:50 and you go back to David McCain's testimony, he doesn't remember what time he arrived, but he remembered he went to the Monon High Bridge first after arriving. He went out on the Monon High Bridge, and his words, which are now locked and loaded in trial testimony on record, that he was on the bridge for about 30 minutes. That puts you at approximately 2:25, 2:30. No one seen anything. No one heard anything. This timeline is a problem. And we know that based on all accounts, all four, according to Daniel Pearson, Shelby Hicks, Shelby Duncan, and Cheyenne Mills, they all claimed they seen David McCain after he got off the bridge. So he had to be there before them. Cheyenne claims that she had a cell phone call at 3:12. She said, I passed one man, and then when I reached the bridge, I came across a man and a woman. The one man she passed was David McCain. The man and the woman she claims that she saw was Daniel Pearson and Shelby Hicks. Conveniently, 3 of these 4 people right here are from Monticello and all know each other and all have tight community ties. And I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but the plot thickens when it comes to who all of these people are connected to. She said, I remembered that he was overweight. Now, I have seen numerous pictures of David McCain. And he does, I think he does a lot of martial arts. I don't believe that he's overweight by any stretch of the imagination. That description to me is a little bit sketchy. So she said, I walked to the bridge and I happened to look down and see at the first platform where you can sit and hang off the bridge. It was my high school friend, Shelby Hicks, and a friend of hers at the time, Daniel. They were on the platform and I didn't know she was going to be there that day. Why is that important to say? But I said, oh, hi, a little quick passing. And Shelby Duncan and I continued to walk across the bridge while they were sitting on the platform. Well, the interesting thing about that is, according to Shelby Hicks's grandfather, Shelby Hicks and Cheyenne were great close friends. I found that a little stunning. Really, they were close friends, but she just seen an old high school friend, but Grandpa knows who Cheyenne is, and he discusses it. Yeah, Bees Jones, you're right about that. But don't you find it interesting that we have these 4 people, some with drug ties, and I'll put it to you like this. Derek German was in jail with Cheyenne's brother. You've got Tina Rodell back in 2017, when no one knew how this case was going to unfold, who came out of nowhere saying that Cheyenne had fibbed and that she was out there with Cheryl Loeffler. We have Cheyenne discussing that Cheryl Loeffler was technically like a sister-in-law to her, because remember, they have babies by a set of brothers. And one of those brothers at the time, by all accounts, was living at the Palladino compound. I don't find this random at all. So let me continue. She says, Shelby Duncan and I continued to walk across the bridge while they were sitting on the platform. Oh, hold on. And then she's again asked where they were sitting, and she said they were sitting on the first platform, which is exactly where Betsy Blair claimed that she saw Daniel Pearson. I'm going to say Daniel Pearson because I believe that's who she saw around 2 o'clock. Standing on the first platform, appearing as if he's waiting for someone. Then we're going to scroll on down here. She talks about there's 5 or 6 photos that her and Shelby Duncan took while they were on the bridge, all conveniently time-stamped a mess because according to her, she had no cell signal out there. So she was taking photographs, but did not get them uploaded to her social media until after they left the trail. So the timestamps that they were uploaded were not the actual timestamps of when the photos were taken. And we know that we don't have all of the photos that were admitted as exhibits during Cheyenne's testimony, nor do we have the letter that she wrote to law enforcement. She was questioned, were some of these photographs used, including Shelby Duncan's photos, for the deposition? Cheyenne had taken a deposition, and the deposition was handed to her while she was on the stand for her to, recollect her memory. Then she talks about basically how the police really they weren't really concerned with her at all. She was calling them, apparently, according to her. And they received a phone call and they wanted to know the timeline. So she went back through, gave them the timeline, and that was pretty much it. On their way back across the bridge, when they got closer to the north end of the bridge, they sat down for about another 10 or 15 minutes and smoked cigarettes. Heard and saw nothing the entire time. She talks about returning to the Mears lot where she saw a lady on a moped and a man. She said, after that, I would have taken Shelby Duncan home, and she lived in Yemen at the time. So it's like a 10 or 15 minute drive from Delphi. And then I went back to my house in Monticello. Well, we're going to touch on Yemen because Yemen and Monticello hold hands side by side. There's a picture of Shelby's feet that were dangling at 3:55 p.m. based on when it was uploaded, not necessarily by the time that it was taken, because it says they sat there for 10 or 15 minutes, and it would have had to have been after 4 p.m. by the time that they left. Exactly, because if they had to have left after 4 p.m. if they're still sitting on the bridge at 3:55. It's at least a 6-minute walk from the Monon High Bridge to the Mears lot. She was driving her purple Chrysler 300, and it was parked there on the trailhead. Shelby Duncan said she arrived in an interview that she gave, and I think I have the snippet of that. Shelby Duncan claimed that she also arrived in a deep purple car. Well, it was Cheyenne's car, because remember, Cheyenne said, we left France Park together and we took the Heartland out to the Monon High Bridge. Them arriving together is important, and I'm going to get to it a little bit later, but just remember that. Now, at the time, remember I said Cheyenne and her husband, Chase Ingalls, were separated. Again, Chase's brother, Jack, who's the father of Cheryl Loeffler's baby, was living on the Palladino compound. According to another one of his baby's mother that I spoke to personally, not going to share her name. But since Cheyenne and Ingalls were separated, Cheyenne wanted to point out that her boyfriend, who at the time was incarcerated, was who law enforcement seemed to be more interested in when conversing with her. They wanted to give her, a ration of shit about who she was dating and who she was talking to, because there was a little bit of her being caught in a lie, claiming that she got a robocall at 2:50 on the trails, when really it was a jail call from her boyfriend who was in jail. So then, this was how serious the case was being taken. She got a call from the FBI telling her, first of all, they were asking for her mother because Cheyenne's phone was in her mother's name. This is all trial transcripts. So I'm not doxing anybody. This is all public record. But the FBI contacted her and she informed them, yes, my phone is in my mom's name, but it's my phone. And yes, I was out there. And they told her that her phone pinged in the area. And at that time, and she said, yes, it was me. And I've already spoken with law enforcement. And they said, oh, okay, thank you. And it was less than a 5-minute call. So this pisses me off. And when I'm done with this, I'm going to go back to it and tell you why. But the most important part is coming up. But here we have her talking about her timing on the bridge. And you've got Miss Diener objecting to the line of questioning and claiming she's not sure how it's relevant to Mr. Allen. Someone else putting themselves on the bridge is not relevant to Rick Allen. Someone who is out on the bridge during the window of when this crime, according to the state, is taking place and no one's hearing or seeing anything. Mr. Rosie says, well, she said she reached out to law enforcement and she's explaining why she was prompted to do that. Miss Diener, again, I'm not sure how that's relevant to the case of Mr. Allen. Really? Mr. Rosie, well, it goes to the nature and the extent of the investigation. Well, duh. She objected to Cheyenne's letter being admitted. What that letter fully says, I don't know. We've never seen it. And it wasn't read out loud. So Cheyenne continues to say, now, I know I've said this before. I'm going to say it again, make all the puzzle pieces fit. On the stand, this correlates all the way back to Tina Rodell's initial statements about Cheyenne lying about who she was with. And why, after Rick Allen is already sitting in isolation in Westville Prison, why is law enforcement showing up to Cheyenne's house in 2023 asking her about a photograph? And it was a photograph that Shelby Duncan took that day on the bridge. And the officer showed up at my house with a picture of Shelby Duncan on the bridge that day, which I don't have. But somehow they had it and they thought it was a different person. They asked if it was Cheryl Loeffler, which was my sister-in-law at the time. And I said, no. Trial testimony, sister-in-law, Cheryl Loeffler. Where did law enforcement get the name Cheryl Loeffler? In 2023. And I said, no, it's Shelby Duncan. The man, he said, so it's Shelby Hicks, correct? And I said, no, it's Shelby Duncan. So are you guys following me on this? I'm going to check and see if I have any questions here. Welcome in, everybody, if you're just joining. So where did law enforcement get Cheryl Loeffler's name in 2023? And isn't it wild that Cheryl Loeffler's baby's dad is living at the Palladino compound? And isn't it wild, a wild coincidence that Tina Rodell back in 2017, who claimed her daughter was out there and beaten and participated in the killings, and that Cheyenne was lying about who she was with? And here we have Cheryl Loeffler coming up again. And let me drop another bombshell. We have 3 people all living on Samuel Milroy Road in 2017. We have Derek German, regardless to what Becky Patty says, that Derek German lived under their roof. When Derek German was interviewed by law enforcement, he gave his Samuel Milroy Road address, which sits directly in front of City Park. About 2 blocks down is Bree Wilbur's house. And even further over from the trails, Cheryl Loeffler also lived on Samuel Milroy Road. So here we have the picture that Cheyenne supposedly took. Kind of a very foggy picture. On the left-hand side of her post, she says, I was there around 3 p.m. I didn't see them. Okay. Were you? I mean, you said, 2:50, give or take 10 minutes in this timeline, it's crucial. But in another post over here on the right, she's asked, what time did you get to the trails? And did you take any more pics you'd be willing to share, other than the one posted in the beginning? Now Cheyenne is saying, I was there around 3:45, 3:50. The other girl, the random girl that I ran into, didn't know she was going to be there. Big deal again. And 8 years later at trial, felt the need to repeat that same exact sentence. I also know her personally, was there at 3:30. This is effed up. 2:50, 3 o'clock, 3:45, 3:30. She claims she arrived at 2:50, and her acquaintance, but according to that acquaintance's grandfather, these two were really good friends, were already on the bridge. And this same acquaintance, which is Shelby Hicks's grandfather, said that the man that she was with, Shelby Hicks was with, was there at 1:30. Why all the time changes? Or are more details coming out about the case and shit's getting real and shit's about to hit the fan and everybody's trying to cover for everybody? I mean, I'm sorry. It's not a conspiracy theory to think, is it possible when these small communities, Delphi, Monticello, Yemen, Tippecanoe, all of them have a mass infestation of methamphetamines, and we're dealing with a major meth dealing group of people? Would they not? I mean, could they possibly all be there for lookouts? I don't know. I'm trying to make it make sense. Okay, so unhushed chaos. See, Amy, I was lying or exaggerating what I was told by Shelby multiple times, why I was so confused at trial. Why I wasn't so confused at trial. Okay, I'm not sure. So now remember, we have Cheyenne and Shelby Duncan arriving together, right? According to Cheyenne's testimony, because Shelby Duncan wasn't called, interestingly not. The other thing that I wanted to say contentiously is that Daniel Pearson, Shelby Hicks, Shelby Duncan, and Cheyenne, none of them had their phones extracted. Why? And I'm going to show another excerpt later where Shelby Hicks was asked, did law enforcement take your phone and extract it? And she said, no, they did not. And do you know where that phone is today? And her answer was, I do not. Lock her up, send her to Rockville. She's a liar. She knows something, right? Isn't that how they treated Rick under the same circumstances? Yeah, because Shelby Hicks, Cheyenne, for whatever reason, are hiding something. That's just my opinion. So we have Shelby Duncan, and I've gone over this, and we have Shelby Hicks. This is one of Cheyenne's photos that she posted. And remember, everybody flipped out, claiming that she had blood on her jeans. And they were questioning why she was dressed in, I guess, those type of jeans with those type of shoes. And here, this is what she responded to and said. Hello, it's me. First off, my initial response is, why didn't you message me? You clearly have my entire name, so I'm pretty positive that you would have found a Cheyenne Mikisha. But thanks to you, I have everyone and their brother in my inbox acting like McGruff, the crime dog. Secondly, I did report my findings to the police station as soon as I heard the news. 2 weeks later, a detective came and spoke with me for a lengthy amount of time. I showed him the pictures I took and explained what I saw. I described my car and other vehicles around me, plus other information that is none of anyone's concern. He has my contact information and is available to use that to his advantage. Third, how is my picture weird? I'm an avid hiker and a nature enthusiast. I enjoy architect and other outdoor photography. I am in love with the outdoors. And referencing why I was there on that day when I should have been at work is completely closed-minded. Not everyone works a factory job or even an office job. That just so happened to be a warmer day and I was off work and I went to enjoy it. Also, your story is false about who was there or what I seen. I wasn't alone. I had my best friend who happens to be a female with me. There was another heterosexual couple there, which means I saw a male and a female who surprisingly I knew as well. And before you dig into the situation, they have also spoke with a detective well before I did. Okay, so now let's talk about this. And just so you guys know, a lot of people thought that this insignia down here on the bottom left-hand corner that says faith in man, people thought that it was like, it was supposed to be faith in man that a lot of people use. No. Faith Inman is a person. I just can't put her on the bridge, but I can put Cheyenne on the bridge. And these shoes right here next to her, it's definitely not Cheyenne's feet in the gray shoes with the black shoelaces, carrying some sort of a long sworded katana sword or hiking stick or whatever the case may be. These are two separate people standing here. And this is a photograph that Cheyenne took. Yet, here we have Shelby Duncan, the same photograph that law enforcement showed up to Cheyenne's house asking her, is this Cheryl Loeffler? Look at Cheyenne's shoes. These are white tennis shoes, and they don't have black shoelaces. So there is a third person in this photograph, in Cheyenne's photographs. I mean, it's, again, make it make sense. Is it Cheryl Loeffler? Because it doesn't appear that the acquaintance that she knew for a long time, and they were high school friends, and Grandpa said that they were they had a very close friendship. It doesn't appear that those two walked across the bridge with Cheyenne and Shelby. And in fact, Cheyenne and Shelby, when they got to the south end of the bridge, they claimed they went down the right side of the bridge on the right-hand side of the south end to use the restroom. And by the time they made it all the way back across the bridge, Daniel and Shelby Hicks were already gone. Again, no one heard, no one seen anything. And none of these people there during this critical window of time had their phones extracted. Who was texting who? Was there anything to do with this crime? What's the harm in that? You've got 4 people on the bridge in this critical window, and we're 5 years into this case without a suspect. You want to know why? Because the investigation sucked. Well, Unhushed Chaos. Okay, now I know who you are. And this is a friend of Shelby Hicks talking in the chat. She says, I don't know why Shelby had to arrive with Daniel Pearson when she told me she was with the girls. Again, I'm going to revert back to Grandpa Hicks' communication. He claimed that, and he didn't specify who with, but he claimed that before going to the Monon High Bridge, Shelby had gone to another park. Was Shelby Hicks actually with Cheyenne and Shelby Duncan? We don't know. Shelby Hicks reportedly took her car into Lafayette to have work done on it. She never is asked, did she sit and wait on her car for the couple of hours that it took to fix it? And then we're going to get into who arrived where and when. The girl, Kathy, the girl that had the earring was Megan Allen, which is Tina Rodell's daughter. She's the one who had a pair of earrings in her pocket that were turned over. Tom says, name me one case ever with so many potential suspects. No one is ever getting convicted for this except for Richard Allen. Right. Unhushed Chaos says, right. I told you that. First a dealership and then lunch in Lafayette. Well, if her car is at the dealership, who's she riding with? Because by all accounts, let me share my screen again. Okay, it's working. So let's see what Shelby Hicks had to say at trial on the stand. Would you say you arrived at High Bridge around 2:55 or close to 3 o'clock? Could have, and she said yes. Oh, sorry, I'm way down here at the bottom. Let me go back up to the top here because I highlighted the areas that I wanted to discuss. So what time is it do you believe that you arrived at the trails? I believe it was around 2:30. Could it be a little bit later than that? It could have been, yeah. You think it could have been earlier than that? Could have been. What makes you think that 2:30 is about the right time? 2 things I know. My car was done around, well, I took my car in around 12:40. And also when I was at the trail, my dad called me and I had timestamps of it at that time around 2:30. And what time? Oh, I'm sorry. Where did you park, if you remember? It was the trail connector. So remember, Shelby Hicks had a white Impala that had paper plates on it. I believe that's what it was, the trail connector where she parked. I believe that's what they call it. It's a little pathway for the vehicles in between the bridge where the highway is and the high bridge. Was there anything across the street from this trail, if you remember? I believe a house, like a farm. So she's talking about Mears. She claims this is not, again, making any sense. What makes you think it was 2:30 is about the right time? She goes into all of this random detail about her car and where she parked, yada, yada, yada. And then she claims when they got into the trail from the Mears connector, they turned right, heading toward Freedom Bridge. Which way do you turn when you get there? I believe we went towards the highway first. Okay. How long do you know, roughly, did you, well, strike that. You then walked that way to the right. Yeah, toward the highway, which would be towards Freedom Bridge. How long did you walk that way? Probably for about 5 to 10 minutes down. Okay. And then what happened? Then we went towards the high bridge. Why? I mean, did they need to give themselves somewhere else besides the Monon High Bridge at 2:30? And if they walk 5 to 10 minutes in one direction, it not only takes them 5 to 10 minutes to get back to the trailhead, but it takes at least another 6 to 7 minutes to get to the Monon High Bridge. Which means, what, are they walking in front of Cheyenne and Shelby Duncan? Because according to Cheyenne and Shelby Duncan, they were already on the bridge when they arrived at around 2:50, 3 o'clock. So she claims she saw 2 girls from school, an older gentleman, and a couple other kids. No one cared to get the other kids' names, did they? Let's talk about your friends. What were their names? Cheyenne Holquin and Shelby Duncan. She claims she saw them on High Bridge. Now, remember, let me go back up here and really quick. She was, let me see. Born and raised in Monticello. Guess who she probably went to school with? Jason Palladino. I want to get to the point where she talks about arriving. She arrived with Daniel. I may not have highlighted it. Oh, here we go. I had just bought a new car, so I had to take my car to get it fixed. Down in Lafayette at Twin City Dodge, the car company. And so we got that fixed. And then when I came back, it was a beautiful day. So I went and stopped at the trails with my boyfriend to go hiking. And what was the boyfriend's name? Daniel Pearson. That was then, at the time, yeah, And so when you say trail, what are you talking about? The High Bridge Trail. So they arrived together. Did you hear anything while you were out on the bridge that caused you alarm? No. No one did. Do you remember if the police ever took your phone to download information or extract information from it? No. You don't remember or you don't know. Oh, they did not take my phone. Would you have given the phone to them if they asked? Yes. Do you know where that phone is today? I do not. Shame on her for not keeping that phone. Then questions by Mr. Baldwin again. He hops up. He wants to know, could you have been there earlier than that? If you know, could have been. Could you have been there later than that? Could have. Yep. No other questions. Now, wait a minute here, because I missed a part, the most important part. So how long, here we go. How long do you, now that you have your memory refreshed, how long do you think you were on the bridge on that platform? Less than 30 minutes. Okay, could it be as much as 30 minutes? Yes, but no more than 30 minutes. Right. All right. So once you got to the place where your car was parked, what then happened if you remember? Key wording here. Once you got to the place where your car was parked, because her and Daniel arrived together, what did you guys do? We drove around the Amish community in Camden, and then we drove back to my vehicle. Her white Impala was supposed to be parked at the Mears lot. And if they left in her car, why is Daniel bringing her back to her car? Do you guys understand why this bothers me? Who is that? Oh, thank you. The Chronic Illness Diaries. Thank you so much. Do you guys understand why that bothers me? Chronic Illness Diary says, I can't thank you enough for your commitment to this case. It keeps me awake at night. It does me too. If you need anything when you're in Indy, hit me up. I live here and hope to be at the oral arguments too. Please don't get hotel on the east side. Greenwood is safe. Thank you. Hopefully, if the plans go right, I'll be coming with an entourage. But thanks for the warning. And thank you so much. So I'm going to scroll on down. Angel Eye says, want me to post number 38? I did number 43. You can. There's a lot of them. Unhushed Chaos says, I'm bothered, most definitely. Absolutely. Yeah, Shabugs did get her plane ticket. Street says, my boyfriend is annoying. I'm moving to Ohio. You're going to be seriously disappointed. Hi, Osbrook. He says, I'm just going to watch on the big screen an hour away. Well, hopefully you've been listening. Maybe Unhushed Chaos, maybe a little bit towards the end, or maybe we can set up an actual whole live stream with just you and I having a conversation, which I think would be better, because this is all, I think a lot of this is, I'm taking this section of the timeline and trying to tighten it for everybody to understand why I feel this section of the timeline needs more scrutiny, and why we have 4 people on the bridge within that critical time period. No one heard anything. No one saw anything. Their interviews were completely disregarded. No one seemed to give a shit about them, like they, they just knew they weren't involved at all. Why is that? And before we get off, I'm going to tell you why I believe that, what my theory heavily leans towards when it comes to that. Yes, I did, Nellie Lane. Yeah, I wouldn't be, Nellie, I would not be surprised. Thank you, Chester. Yes, it is. So anyway, we're going to go back and talk about who the hell Cheyenne was with. These are 3 different people with her on the bridge. We've got law enforcement asking her about Cheryl Loeffler. We have Cheryl Loeffler being the mother of Cheyenne's husband's brother's baby, living at the Palladino compound. You've got Tina Rodell back in 2017, outwardly back in 2017, accusing Cheyenne of not telling the truth about who she was with, and said Cheryl Loeffler was out there among a whole bunch of other people that I have the list of names, but I've not been able to pin down if they were there or not. So there's no point in even trying to discuss them and falsely accuse anybody. I'm dealing with the stuff here that I can actually prove these people are acknowledging they were there, except for the fact that it is clear that we have 3 pairs of shoes. Cheyenne's number 1, random person number 2, with this odd Faith Inman name embedded in the photograph. And then Shelby Duncan, the photograph that law enforcement showed up with at Cheyenne's house in 2023, asking her if this was Cheryl Loeffler. So Cheyenne says, I don't know what question she was answering here, but she says, by the time frame, it wouldn't be right. If the girl's last snap was at 2:07, my friend showed up around 2:30, while I showed up around 2:45, 2:50. We would have seen someone. Who the hell is she talking about? My friend showed up around 2:30. Is she talking about Shelby Hicks? Or is she talking about somebody else? Because she can't be talking about Shelby Duncan, because we know now that they both arrived in the same deep purple car coming from France Park. But was Shelby Hicks with them? Because Shelby Hicks's grandfather said that Shelby Hicks went to a park before she went to the High Bridge. And we know now that Daniel Pearson drove separately than Cheyenne. And he, after going to Amish country in Camden, dropped her back off at her car. So that's why it's very believable that Daniel Pearson, like Shelby Hicks's grandfather said, was there on the trails around 1:30 and was standing on the first platform around 2 p.m. and could have been the handsome brown poofy hair guy that Betsy Blair saw, who appeared to be waiting for someone. I mean, it's not reaching at all. It's not reaching whatsoever. It wasn't a PT Cruiser. It was a 300. It was a purple 300. And again, going back to all of these people who are connected into Monticello with real connections to a meth dealing group, all converging on the bridge at the same time, on the same day, during this critical hour. No one sees anything. No one hears anything. And the police just completely, whatever. So that brings me to the core of the problem with this group of people. Gone over this before. Going to go over it again. It needs to fall in the hands of somebody who's going to freaking listen and have the ability to do something about it. Now, this was sent back in, I believe, 2019. And I cannot reveal who it is, but they claim that Red, aka Sheena, now back then, Sheena was Sheena Cottrell. She's now a Sheena Dillon. But Sheena Cottrell, back in 2017, was dating Jason Palladino. Sheena was at my apartment and she was beyond high. There were two to three other people, and a guy, apparently a gay guy, who was there with his boyfriend. Sheena was out of her mind high, going on about how she was there when CJ Palladino killed those girls, and she knows what all happened, etc. I went to the cops with the information and they dismissed it because I was loaded at the time. There was never talk of a videotape. Unless Sheena told Garrett but I never heard that. Furthermore, if I knew 100% who did that to them poor girls, I would go straight to the state police. I couldn't imagine if those were my children, it would break me. Some person also replied that said Garrett also implicated Jason Palladino to Delphi. And he replied, Sheena implicated the Palladinos all the way, Mark, Jason, and CJ. I have been discussing this screenshot for almost 4 years now. Now I can tell you, and I've relayed this information to the proper channels, that there's another source. Michael Osbrook says more people have confessed than have been lingered as BG. Yeah. I mean, what I cannot. The factions of these people, the groups, the POIs, and the significance of each one of them and the nexuses that they all have is absolutely mind-boggling in this case. But another source who I had a very long conversation with, and I took really detailed notes, and I've forwarded that over to a person that matters. But I had made a promise. This person does not want to be involved in the case, will not speak publicly, will not go to law enforcement. Their life is completely different now. They've been out and away from the meth game for over 8 years. However, had been very tight with this particular family and said this family was moving millions in meth. And there were a lot of people in the community, a lot of law enforcement that were on the take. He didn't know names, and if he did, he wasn't going to reveal them in Carroll County. However, he did speak of another prosecutor from another county who was on the take, turning their, looking the other direction as the flooding of the meth came in and out of the community. And the looking of the other way was paid in was paid by cocaine. He says that's how deep the corruption runs. There will be quite a strong POT of T within a few weeks. Can't wait. So there's that. And the reason that is so significant is because this same person also informed me that Sheena had conveyed to him and one other person that she was forced to help move bodies. So take that for what it's worth. I'm not really positive at what point in the investigation, in the media from 2017, after, when the public was made aware that the bodies were moved. So I'm going to now, if you guys remember, that probably 2 years ago, maybe not quite that long ago, I did my first episode called The Delphi Underground. And I talked about a lot of things. So if you have not watched that, please go back and watch it. I can't. I've got 2 laptops here, and my older stuff is on my old laptop, and it's just real. I'm trying to keep this newer laptop uncluttered, so I can't always pull things over for resharing. But I did do a live about it, and I talked about Emily Collier. Emily Collier was one of the girls in the 3-girl group that I believe is who Rick Allen actually saw out on the trails. Emily Collier is currently in prison. We know now, let me take a gander at it, the date. Hold on one second. Let me pull up the date. In 2023, Emily Collier was in the Carroll County Jail and gave an interview. And the interview was recorded. And Emily Collier said that she saw Bridge Guy out there on the trails. That's what she said. I don't know what else she said in her interview because I don't have the recorded portion of that interview. But the most significant thing about Emily Collier is, number one, she was on the trails that day. Emily Collier was in jail with Ashley, was in prison with Ashley. And I communicated with her, and she emphatically told me that she used to go over to the Palladino compound and hang out with Talitha Beckley and smoke meth. And while there, Talitha told her if she goes down the hallway and opens up the floorboard, there's evidence under the floorboard of the Delphi murders. Now, Emily Collier is not talking, and she's currently in Rockville because she was busted. Where? On 600 in Monticello, basically Palladino Street. She was busted for 500. They arrested a group over there. I believe there was 9 of them that they arrested. And you know what the convenient thing is that what's his name? The guy who, I can't think of his name. It's just slipped in my mind. The DNR officer, Doolin made the bust on 600 in Monticello, right across the street from the Palladino's house, and took little Emily Collier to prison. See the connections? She's on the bridge. She's a friend of Libby's. Did she see on Libby's social media that Libby was going to be there? Were people informing others if somebody had a hit out on Derek or the next best thing, his child. I don't know. I'm saying this is, to me, these are major nexuses that were never put together by anybody. And now Emily is not talking. Is it out of fear? I don't know. Because at the time that I was speaking with her, I wasn't doing live streams on Delphi. The second that she knew I was covering it on the same channel that I covered Ashley's case, she didn't want to talk about it. Right. She probably can't talk about it. I mean, the fear of these people are fearful, not only of speaking out about the case and what they might know because of law enforcement. We also don't know what kind of threats have been made, or do they know things, at the street level game that, you just don't cross certain people. So, and if this family, I've been told numerous occasions, have made reference to, implicated in. Talitha Beckley has been notorious for bragging about crimes that she's been involved with the family. She's gone from one Palladino to the other. She was with Mark. She was with Jason. Then Mark and her were arrested breaking and entering together. And you know what's interesting? This whole family has a drug background. You can pull up there, you can Google in Carroll County, Tippecanoe, White County, Reynolds, Monticello, their names, and you'll find instances where, for example, CJ Palladino was attempting to break into a warehouse. I can't ever say the chemical ammonohydroside or whatever it's called. The chemical needed to make meth. He was at another time he was charged with resisting arrest, breaking and entering. And if you go through, this was back when Nick McClellan was in his glory days as a defense attorney, and he represented all of them. CJ Palladino was sentenced to 9 years in prison. And within, I believe it was 8 months of his sentencing, matter of fact, I have it right here. Curtis J. Palladino, Little Curtis, the attorney, Nicholas McClelland. He was sentenced term 9 years. He had jail credit for 156 days. This case drug out. And then guess what? He got a big sentence modification. Every single one of these cases that you look up has the same people involved. Judge Diener, Nick McClellan, Shane Evans. There's CJ. Now, let me get into why all of this really connects. Not going to show it. Just going to talk about it. On July 11th, 2017, at 8:55 p.m. Eastern Time, an individual, not going to say the name, called in to the FBI public access line to report CJ Palladino and Mark Palladino as people of interest in the Delphi double homicide. She provided the following information. She was speaking with another individual about her boyfriend's daughter, Sheena Dillon. Dillon spoke of information regarding, this is the same Sheena Dillon who said she was there, who also told someone else she moved bodies. This is someone tipping this whole thing in. Dillon spoke of information regarding the Delphi double homicide and that Mark reportedly sold 100 pounds of crystal ice to Libby's father. Libby's father never paid Mark the $100,000 he was owed for the crystal ice. Mark then hired his nephew, CJ, to kill Libby in retaliation to not being paid for the drugs. On the day of the Delphi murders, Dillon claimed Mark came home covered in blood and was wearing one glove but was missing the other. Mark took off his clothes and told Dillon to get rid of them. The clothes were burned. After this, Mark and CJ left and went to California, where they frequently went to pick up their drug supply. She claimed that Sheena stated the suspect image in the Delphi double homicide picture was CJ Palladino. Mark at the time was living right outside of Monticello, Indiana, and Sheena is currently locked up in the White County Jail. We do know that there was a visit by Detective Kevin Hammond, who interviewed CJ Palladino at the Carroll County Jail on August 1st of 2018. Nothing like waiting a whole year to go interview him. Claimed that he had no alibi for the date and time in question and denied any knowledge of the event. A polygraph was recommended. ISP Limler interviewed numerous contacts regarding possible involvement of CJ Palladino in this homicide. See attached narrative reports, which I do not have. White County Detective David Roth interviewed Mark Palladino on March 17th of 2017. Mr. Palladino had no verifiable alibi for the date and time in question. DNA swabs were taken, nothing further at this time. That's why I have such a problem with all these people being on the bridge that day. Unhushed chaos. Last week, I went to Monticello for about 3 hours, and a certain status community wants anything to do with Delphi discussion. I sipped my diet confused. No, they don't. They're afraid. Is there anyone, Regina says, is there anyone in Delphi that wasn't at the bridge that day? When we do the marathon, we're going to go over everybody who was out there that day. As far as I know, they never pursued the Palladinos. Shane Evans and Nick were bunkmates in college. Well, that's a fun fact. And I discussed this yesterday, how I see this has all been able to work internally in that community. If you look at all of the shifting around of positions, from law enforcement to mayor to the prosecution team during the Delphi case to now judge, these people all involved heavily in that community who could, I'm sorry, I'm just going to come out and say it, who could possibly be on the take. Don't get me started on, salaries that don't match the homes they live in, how they're able to afford certain accommodations of their lifestyle on their public record salaries. I mean, it's public information when you're a public official. You can go out there on the site and look it up. But when I tell you that you've got a law enforcement officer who's making about $69,000, $70,000 a year, but they live in a $500,000 house and his wife doesn't work, hello. but they're all moving positions. Is it to protect themselves? Did Shane have to step down as being mayor because his brother and his uncle are tied in to CSAM? I mean, I believe it's Travis Evans. Look him up. So now you've got a judge who was once a mayor, who stepped down as mayor to sit on the prosecution's team, which I really don't see what role he played at all in prosecuting Rick Allen, other than to say that he was on the prosecution team, who's now a judge, who's making decisions about criminal cases in that area. Yeah, and you exactly. You have to have positions to run drugs easily. Exactly. And this family, for the amount of people that whisper. And the crazy thing is, I was whispering about all of this before I found out about the tips involving Sheena Dillon. I was talking about this a year or two before I even found out these tips existed. Make sure, do I have any more of those to go over? Now we're gonna hop back over really fast to let me share my screen again. So is it sharing? Yes. Okay. So this is just to reiterate what I had said earlier about Daniel Pearson and his timeline, and the fact that we're going to read this portion of it. Remember, this was before the girl, it had even been announced that the girls had been found unalived. This officer says, I finally walked over to the area of the bodies of Liberty German and Abigail Williams after it was determined to be safe without damaging any evidence at the scene. Once I was close enough to see, I could tell that Liberty German was naked and had blood all over her body and on both of her hands. It appeared from a short distance that Liberty's throat had been cut on both sides of her neck. It should also be noted that it appeared that someone had placed sticks and a larger broken branch on Liberty's body. It was not clear if this was some way of trying to cover her body or something else. I then looked at Abigail Williams, and she was clothed, and I did not see a lot of blood on her clothes. It should be noted the pants that Abigail was wearing were unzipped and not closed on the front top of her pants. After further investigation, it was thought that maybe Abigail was wearing Liberty's pants since they appeared to be too big for her. I don't think that I just don't know how those pants fit Libby, to be honest. It was later determined by CSI that the sweatshirt that Abigail was wearing was Liberty German's. While standing in the area of the crime scene, it was thought by the detectives that most logical path for the girls to have gotten to the crime scene would have been walking through Deer Creek. I'm going to skip the rest of that because that's not the important part. While I was at the scene, I had returned to my commission, which was his law enforcement vehicle, that was parked in the cemetery. While at my car, I was advised that Daniel Pearson was requesting to speak with an officer. I contacted Mr. Pearson with my department-issued cell phone. I made contact with Mr. Pearson on his cell phone, and he advised he might have some information about the double murder case we were working. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Daniel did hear about the double murder case. I took it as this was before the girl, it had even been out in the airwaves. Mr. Pearson stated he and his girlfriend were walking on the trails the day before, and while they were walking, they noticed several cars and also an older gentleman that they thought was very suspicious. Mr. Pearson advised the older man had white or peppered hair, and he also had facial hair. Mr. Pearson advised that this older gentleman was wearing blue jeans, but he remembers he was wearing a black golfer's hat or something similar. Pearson stated the odd thing is he remembered that this subject was taking pictures with a disposable camera, and he even took a picture of them without permission. Mr. Pearson was asked if he would be able to do a sketch of the person if we could provide the sketch artist. Mr. Pearson advised between himself and his girlfriend, Shelby Hicks, he thought they could provide a sketch. Arrangements were made for the sketch artist from ISP to come to Delphi and meet with Mr. Pearson and Miss Hicks. It was also determined that they both meet with a detective and get a taped statement. So he's already spinning his narrative the morning of the 14th. Checking the chat. Nick had the county create payout salary for 2 new prosecutorial secretaries because discovery was unmanageable and he needed a fair shot at convicting RA, but moved a pre-existing employee to, and then it cut off, fig, to one of the new roles instead and hired no one. This employee may have been unpaid volunteer Kathy Shank. Oh, where did those salaries go? That's over 80K, vamoosed. So now I think that's pretty much all I've got for tonight. I hope that I was able to tighten up that group of people and make better and clearer sense for you guys with why I feel that group of people, their timelines. I mean, if there's video from the Hoosier Harvest Store, if there is video from around that surrounding area. Here, we'll do this really fast. Let's take a look here. So we've got 6045 Hodges Drive right here. Let me make sure my screen is sharing. Okay, it is. You should be able to see my cursor moving. So this road right here is 600. There's one property right here. This right here is Hodges Drive. You turn right off of 600. This is 6045 North Hodges Drive. And behind it is the rental property that they also own, which is where the Engel brother and his other baby mama lived, reportedly in 2017. This area over here, somewhere, the newspaper article did not give the exact address. It just said off of 600. And one of these locations right here is where Emily Collier was arrested. Across the way over here, make sure I'm in the right spot. Right here is where Derek German's uncle lives. So it is not a far stretch by any means to understand that there's a good possibility that tip has some real validity to it. Now, let's go over here to Main Street in Yemen. CJ, big CJ, daddy CJ, Jason's dad, CJ's dad lives right here in Yemen. This is Main Street. Right up the street here is a commercial auction house building that he also owns. Guess who lived right here? Shelby Duncan. Samuel Milroy Road. CL lives here in 2017. Here's the Monon High Bridge Trail. Samuel Milroy Road, Derek German, Bree Wilbur, all within walking distance of the bridge. Right here, next to Derek German's house, is City Park. Now, we go back over here to Logan's property. Right here is Ron Logan's. The witness that we have is over here to the right, 5717 West 300 North, claiming they saw I don't believe the person lives here. They were out in front of this vicinity here doing what I don't know. This is where they claim an individual came up from the woods and got into a tan vehicle. So you guys see where I'm going with all of this? I'm trying to make it make sense, and how it's so unbelievably a coincidence that all these people converged that day on the bridge. Let's see here. So let me answer some questions. Hush Chaos, email me, please. I'm going to put my email in there so you and I can set up a conversation. I'm just going through chat to see if I have any questions. No? Yeah, if you're talking about Nick McClellan, yes, he absolutely did go to city council and ask for more money. Thank you, Mother of Dragons. Thank you so much. And thank you for always modding. I appreciate you guys so much. So Yeah, I'm not taking anybody off. I'm not taking any person of interest off the table. Although I feel like the research has been very valuable in being able to push some people on the like on the further outer ring of who I think could be involved. And I'm nobody. I'm just doing the research, and I'm sharing with you guys what we have, and you know, hopefully one day it makes a difference. So hopefully one day, like all of this right here, somebody will go back and either disprove all of this, which would be great. Law enforcement have the opportunity to do that from day one, and they didn't. And if they don't like the scrutiny, well, then do your job. And I'm just going to pay attention to who you're voting into office. Make sure you're paying attention who you're voting in your law enforcement elected official positions, because it matters. They make the decisions that affect all of our lives. Kathy says, Amy's Amy. I'm so glad to see you in here, Kathy. Does Dennis R. Lucas have a son named Robert Lucas that is law enforcement? You know what? I don't know. Thank you, Michelle. You know, the thing with Ron Logan is, and the thing with a lot of these, people that have been in that community embedded for years, you will never, first of all, they're not social media gurus, okay? So one of the ways that some of these people get caught up is because we can go back and look at their social media. Oh, Amy's Army. I thought it said Amy's Amy. Oh, thank you, Kathy. But I don't believe for 1 minute that Ron Logan didn't know the good, the bad, and the ugly in that community. And you all know the history with, the ex-girlfriend Ashley Wright, the meth connections, the parties and stuff that have, because of the lack of social media with surrounding Ron Logan, we don't know what's true. And I mean, just because someone says it doesn't make it fact. There's got to be a little bit of something for me that backs it up. Like, that's why when we do this marathon with the timeline, I'm trying to correlate. I mean, we've got pages and pages of the timeline, movements of people. And I'm trying to be able to have, like a double screen column showing you, this is why we know that this time and this person was there, because they said so. Whatever information that we can provide to, back up what we're showing, we're going to do. And it's just taking a lot of time to get it done. But I don't believe for 1 minute that Ron Logan didn't know Paladinos, didn't know what went on out there in those woods, that he didn't know what went on over there on the trails. I don't buy it for 1 minute. He was an old man who did nothing but hang out on his property. I'm sure he was fully aware. And you can't tell me that the Webbers didn't know what was going on out there, because they seem to pay attention to everything. Shit, they even caught us out there. So, Critter Mama says the slumber party and the RL party, I think, key to the truth. I need proof. I need proof. People have been saying it for years. But, unless somebody comes forward and says, I was there, and this who else was there, I mean, all I can do is say he possibly had a party. There's nothing else I can do with that. It is, I wish somebody would come forward with it. Did anyone ever find out if Ashley Wright and Tyler Wright are related? I don't know. I don't even know how to get in contact with Ashley Wright. And nobody that I've talked to ever remember seeing, and don't get me wrong, I haven't talked to a whole bunch of people who knew Ron Logan, but I've not came across anybody who claims Ron Logan had a freaking fish tank. And not even the FBI agent who served the warrant ever, even in her deposition, ever said anything about a fish tank, which the fish tank was notoriously the alibi that Ron Logan gave. He drove to Lafayette to buy tropical fish. Do you understand? I mean, tropical fish. And the receipt, I think, was like for $100. So did he buy tropical fish and throw them out on the way home, or did he actually have a fish tank? But a tropical fish tank is an expensive little hobby to run. And I don't know, it's more of a yuppie type hobby, I would think. I mean, I could see him having fresh fish, but saltwater fish, I just don't know. That reminds me of something that Ron Logan did. I feel like he was more of a horse, goat, and rabbit guy. But that's, we've never came across anybody who has said they knew he had a fish tank. Oh, streets of Bakersfield. Get at me. Ashley Wright lives in Chicago and is living with a drug dealer named King. You're going to have to tell me how you know that, because I am fully aware of this. If it's the same, it can't not be a different King. This would be the King that ran drugs up to Westville and served the Westville prison guards, who was then implementing the drugs into the prison to the prisoners. And that came from a family member who was involved in that trafficking. Let me see. Oh, Street says that one. And he was from Chicago, like Illinois. Yes. Oh. Go listen to Garrett Kurtz's interrogation interview. He's discussed. Well, when you say tropical fish, I'm thinking saltwater. I mean, I used to have a tank. I had a tank, and my mom had two, and I had one for about 5 years, and it was so expensive to maintain that I got out of it. I never was into freshwater fish, and I never knew that they ever considered them tropical fish. But if that's the case, that would make, freshwater fish being called tropical, if that's what he was purchasing, makes more sense to me than him having a saltwater tank. But regardless, we have, Street says, I've told you this before, but your brain just has too much information in it. I know. If I could screenshot words, I would, when you're talking. If I could capture it and save it. So yeah, and that's just like, the same thing with the bullet. I've got, let me just share that little tidbit. I think I got it handy dandy. I meant to go over the Garrett report tonight, but I didn't get to. What did I do with that little bit? How? I have a screenshot of something that was posted from the FBI saying that they didn't believe that the bullet found at the crime scene was relevant to the crime scene, that it had been out there in the elements for a long time. And then don't forget that we have the Lodge, or the Logan guy, who was the the gun auctioneer and claimed that law enforcement told him that he could auction off Ron Logan's gun collection because a gun wasn't used in the crime. And, the crime happened in February. There were 2 search warrants served at Ron Logan's house in March of 2017. And nothing in either search warrant. Well, the first search warrant was for the violation of his probation, him driving, and then him not supposed to have weapons in his home. And they confiscated all of his weapons. That's how law enforcement got him. And then like 2 weeks later, they served a search warrant for the Delphi case, and nothing in that search warrant says they were looking for a bullet. So let's see here. Unhushed Chaos Classic. Is Ashley Wright the female of mom who took pick of plates? Drugs. She was essayed, returned home days later. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. Is Ashley Wright is this okay, this is a question. No. So the mother that took the pictures of the paper plates was Tina Rodell, who believed there were drugs in the trunk of that car. That was supposedly a white Dodge Dart with paper plates that pulled into her driveway with a handful of guys in it. Tyler Joe French was one of them. I forget the name. I forget right off the top of my head the other names. But her daughter, Megan Allen, left with them and then was reported to be essayed out on the trails. Yeah, different family. Yeah, and it's easy to do. And it's all of these people tend to run together. Ashley Wright was Ron Logan's girlfriend for a while. And they said that she was heavily into, I think, doing meth and possibly dealing it. So if that was the case, I mean, who knows what kind of traffic was going in and out of Ron Logan's property, and who were the dealers? So guys, it's 8:45. I have to work in the morning. That's all I got for tonight. Quester and I will be back probably this coming weekend with another vault. He's got some things he's working on that he was all excited about that he was sending me today. So I'm going to help him out on that and keep doing what we do. That's all we can do. And so I really appreciate all of you guys being here on a weeknight, going on 9 o'clock. And make sure you like and share and subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate all of you. This weekend, Candy, I know we've been bouncing back and forth between Sunday and Monday, but my girls have needed me for keeping the grandkids, and it was different when they were little, and I could hold a newborn on my lap and bounce while I did a live. But they're walking and talking now, so I can't do that. And I with our schedules, I can't turn down Mimi time with my babies. So, and sometimes Quester isn't available. He's across the pond. He's like 5 hours ahead of us. So I have to also work around his time frame. So I try, and it comes down, like when we're getting ready to go live, it's like down to the wire. We're still doing work, getting stuff together, because pushing out these episodes once a week without rerunning everything over and over, it's difficult. And we get away from a topic and then we come back to it. So it's a lot of work getting these things together, a lot of hours. And there's so much that we both have. I know he has multiple computers. I have two. Trying to remember, okay, where was that? What did I label it as? What folder is it in? Trying to find it. And then what do you know, as I'm searching, I come across something else and I'm like, oh, holy shit, I forgot about this. So I'll send it, and that will send us down another rabbit hole. It is all about me time. And I had Lyndon, my granddaughter, last Sunday, all day, and she's getting so big. And I introduced her to Taylor Swift. I love Taylor Swift. I'm a Swiftie for sure. And I let her watch the Disney Eras concert. And she was sitting in her chair clapping. She's so freaking cute. But when my daughter picked her up, I told her, I said, you need to let her watch Taylor when you guys get home. And Kaylee says, no, you didn't. Because Lyndon gets she gets obsessed with things. Like it's not, for the first 8 months of her life, it was Elmo. It was Momo. We had like 4 Elmos that were exactly the same. And they were like the plush bears, so they could be washed. But because you couldn't take it away from her. So we had to swap it out. So she didn't know that one Momo was being washed. she carries around her little figurines. She's got like 7 of them. Lilo and Stitch, Goofy, Donald Duck, she's got a handful of them. And I mean, she brings them over and she sets them out, lines them up in front of the TV like they're going to watch TV with her. She's the cutest damn thing ever. So I can't ever turn that down. And then the newborn is absolutely beautiful, but I know I won't get her for an entire day. It's not going to happen until some months down the road. And then, of course, you guys know my Kai, my little handsome boy who's now walking. Fig is asking, are you asking me, Fig? Does ADHD and autism run in my family too? I probably have some ADHD. Well, you know what? I didn't think I was going to have grandkids. I never thought either one of my girls were going to have kids. In fact, my oldest was just like, I just don't. And then she's pushed out 2 in 2 years. And they're beautiful. And they just bought a house right around, it's literally 10 minutes from me. So you're asking me? No, I have no autism in my family. But ADHD, probably my son, and probably me. I've never been diagnosed. I've never taken anything for it, but I know that it's really hard to stay focused. I go from one thing to the next all the time, and I do my best thinking at like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I go to bed early, and then I wake up around 1 o'clock, and I don't know if you ever noticed that I post a lot in the middle of the night, but I'm laying there in bed and I do some research, and my 2 o'clock in the morning is bright and early for Quester, and he's always up. So we do a lot of communicating at that time. So Glitter Witch says both of my kids are autistic and her behavior sounds like them when they were little. Too cute, line those toys up. Oh my gosh, she is. And, she gets fixated on one show. And so, and it runs its course for about a month. So it used to be the Elmo series. Then it turned into Lilo and Stitch. And then it was Hop. And that she calls it Hop because it's called Utopia. But the bunny that's in it, she would come over and she'd say, Hop, Mimi, Hop. So we went through that. Now she's on Bear in the Big Blue House. She got on that. But when Kaylee was going to bring her over, I said, okay, have we switched obsessions yet on shows? Because I want to be prepared. And Kaylee said, yes, it's now the Bear in the Big Blue House. And she says, don't ask me why. But when she asked you to put it on, she says, Bish. I said, Bish in the Big Blue House? And she said, yes, it sounds like bitch. I'm like, oh, and she did. Bish, Bish. Unhushed Chaos. I pissed teachers off because I twirled my hair in school. Teachers thought I was being sassy. Twirling my hair helps me focus to think. Oh my God, I did the same thing. And I don't know if you noticed, but I still do. And up until I was about 10 years old, I sucked my thumb and I twirled my hair. My dad tried everything, pepper, hot sauce, all kinds of stuff. And finally, I just stopped. But I used to twirl my hair and put it in a little bow like this and then rub the top of it. Yes, Glitter Witch. Oh, yeah, Bear in the Big Blue House. And I remember that show from when my kids were little. It's been around for years. And it just takes me back. Now I'm waiting for her to get hooked on Barney because my oldest was obsessed and hooked on Barney for a very long time. Barney and The Land Before Time. Between the Lions is all free on YouTube, by the way. Highly recommend watching with little loved ones. Absolutely, I'll check it out. Okay, guys, I love you so much. Thank you for being here. I twirl too, diagnosed ADHD as adult. Maybe I need to go get some Adderall. Yeah, Ritalin. Yeah, I knew my son had ADHD. I mean, I just was like, okay, I'll deal with a hyperactive boy. Yep, lock and twirl, Unhushed. That's what I used to do, and suck my thumb. And my son, to this day, he's a fidgeter. You know what I mean? Like he's sitting and his knee is bouncing. He's just a fidgeter. And I am too sometimes, but I'm more of like I can go downstairs to get something that I'm doing up here and then get completely sidetracked and find myself in the basement doing fucking laundry. Stop it. I'm coming. Breezy's telling me it's bedtime. She knows when she spoiled rotten. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to hop off here. I got to be up 3 o'clock in the morning. I'll probably be awake at like 1:30 and on the phone. So until next time, thank you. I appreciate you all. And I also want, if you were in here in chat, and you were in here on Monday when Quester and I did the live and tensions got a little bit high, I just want to thank everybody for, minding your manners and being respectful and handling it like the mature adults that we are. I know this case can get it gets under people's skin and it's high emotion. So I really want to say, I really appreciate you guys for handling, things, got a little bit tense. Hey, Redacted. And I know that you were in here on Monday or yesterday. I feel like it was such a long way away. And I just wanted to say thank you for when I said, guys, come on now, let's keep it together here. Everybody, they did. And I appreciate that. I want everybody to feel welcome here. We all can disagree. We can all agree to disagree, but, and I know what a lot of you guys deal with. I'm not a major channel surfer, but I know that you guys have encountered a lot of, anti-crank hostility. So I get it. I just want this channel to be a little different. You know what I mean? So I really want the work that we do over here to matter. So anyway, guys, again, for the 100th time, I'm going to go. I'll see you next time. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll probably see you this weekend. Bye, guys.